What is going on, YouTube? This is The Last Musketeer, and welcome to part 9 of the Arknights free-to-play progression series. So starting out, I just wanted to show you real quick a challenge mode run on 6.3. Now I'm going to get into some of the later chapters and stuff right after this, but I wanted to show you this one because this one was a bit of a weird one to work around. So you only have one slot on the outside that you can block with, but you're not going to want to block on this particular challenge mode because the condition is that the enraged possessed soldiers have greatly increased attack. They already do a lot, so they are going to basically chew through any line that you put out to try to stop them. So basically all you have to do is put a lot of ranged units out there. The more the merrier, because honestly if you have a healer that's going to keep them alive, you have no problem dealing enough damage to get them out of the lane. Though I do put two blockers here, Mudrock being the main blocker and Thorns just for a little extra damage to help take some pressure off my ranged units, because they do have to deal with the ones on the outside first and foremost. Those are the ones that are most formidable, that I'm not really going to be able to get a lot of damage into, and I have to make sure that they don't get out, because putting a blocker there just doesn't really do anything. So I have Bagpipe there, then Gavialter, then Cantabile, just to slow it down a little bit. I had to sacrifice all three of them for that, and that was probably unnecessary, but you know, I'd rather be safe than sorry. But that was just that quick run, just in case somebody else is struggling with it, so I can show off just how I did it. It really isn't that bad, you just need to have good range damage. But we get the S3 of Gavialter to M1, and I'm going to need a ton of rocks moving forward to get that one up, so I'm going to wait a little bit and try to focus my masteries on someone else, give them a chance to get up. But we are starting Chapter 9, so this is stage 9-2. I had done 9-1 previously, or maybe it was more story-based, I can't exactly remember. So this is basically the start of Chapter 9 for me. So this stage is a little weird the way it's spread out, but very, very easy. As you can see, the enemies do not do a lot of damage, because being as though you can unlock this around Chapter 4, or maybe completing Chapter 4, I don't exactly remember, you can actually start on Chapter 9 at that time. So basically they lowered the stats of everything to make it more akin to what you would run into in the earlier chapters of the first arc. So this is basically going into a new arc and new situations, and I am super excited. So I'm hoping that I can try to get Chapter 10 done in the next week and be prepped for when Chapter 11 drops. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to stream it on the exact day that it drops, but I'll try to hurry through Chapter 10 as much as I can. Obviously, we still got the event going on that I need to fully finish and try to get all the rewards from, because they are important. So it'll be a juggle of those two things, and we'll see what I can possibly do. But live streaming Chapter 11 on the drop of it would be fantastic. Not to mention that directly a little bit after, we're going to have the Tex Altar event drop. We've got IS-3 coming out. Everything's happening all at once. A bunch of big changes coming to the game. So I'm excited, hoping for the best, and hoping I can get out as much content as I can. Maybe look forward to seeing some more videos coming out in the next couple of weeks or so. I'll try to do as much as I can, pump out as many videos as I can, while still doing the other ones, of course. Don't want to neglect them. Also, Honkai Star Rail is coming out as well in the next little bit, so I'm going to have a very, very busy schedule. But I also look forward to that game, so we'll see what I can do. But while we're on the topic of other games, the one I'm looking forward to the most, and I'm sure a lot of people that probably are watching these videos are, is Arknights Infield. So obviously we don't really have a lot of information on it yet, other than just being hyped for it. I am super excited, and hopefully, you know, it's not too long in between there. But of course we have regular Arknights to contend with in the meantime, which I'm very, very happy about. With all the good updates coming out in this next little bit, we're gonna have so much to work with, and that's the most exciting part about it, knowing that the game is going to continue to thrive over time and just give us plenty of content while we're waiting, because you can't just hype us up and then leave us with very little. With the new chapters coming out and the new ones we're looking forward to in the future that we know are coming in the next few months, it's going to be great. This is a good time for Arknights. So I am very curious though as to which new operators that people are most excited for, and I'm talking about after Texalter, because I know a lot of people are excited for her. But I want to know which ones you want the most in the next few months. I want to know, maybe it's not just operators, maybe it's certain events that you're really excited for. Obviously, there's a decent amount of things coming out, and we've got a little bit of a wait, but just let me know down in the comments what exactly you are ready for. But I'm going to stop talking about other various subjects and kind of go more into my Chapter 9 progression. So what I've decided is I'm going to actually split this video into 2 parts, and I know that can be annoying at times, but I still have some runs that I want to put into the second part of the video, because if I put it all into one, it would probably be over an hour, which is a bit too long. So we're going to split it into 2. I'm going to put some of the extra runs that I'm going to be working on, hopefully get some of them done, and put them into the next part of the video that I will drop probably the day after this one comes out. So hopefully I can get that all done. If I don't get any more, well, I'm still going to drop it regardless. And sometimes I feel like 2 videos is better than 1, so you can enjoy one at one point and then just watch the other one at another time, which will be good. I like to have a little extra content out there, but also, you know, when you run an event and you complete some stages at the end of a week after you released a video, and then the event ends for 2 or 3 days and you show it in the next progress video, it's a little strange for sure. It's kind of way behind schedule when it feels like that, so I'll try to do it that way. But also the fact that doing these commentaries on long videos really weakens my voice, and with the lack of sleep that I've been getting lately, which is my own fault, I'm aware. I go to sleep a little late because I want to keep doing extra runs. But when I'm tired, my voice gets weak, it's hard to project it, I sound like I'm mumbling half the time, and I don't want it to be like that. So basically, I'm going to give my voice a little bit of a rest in between those vids. It makes it a little bit easier on me overall. But of course, I always enjoy communicating with everybody, so leave any comments, any questions you have down in the comment section. I will try to answer them, obviously if it's not something super personal, but I mean, basically anything else is fine. If you have any questions about, you know, my plans for the future, what I'm doing, you know, feel free to ask. If you have any recommendations or anything you'd like me to try, I'm down for that as well. So, but alright, enough of the rambling on about random stuff. I kind of tried to fill in a little bit of the gaps because the stages were so easy at this point. But I'm going to start, as far as the next few stages, talk about what I decided to do in the completions. But as far as Chapter 9 goes, I did enjoy the overall aesthetic of it. I enjoy these city maps because it feels a little more artsy compared to some of the other ones. I know some of the other ones are out in the field and stuff. There's not a whole lot you can do with that, but I did like how this was. The art of the enemies is really nice as well, and I did have a bit of familiarity with them because I have done a decent amount of IS-2 runs. So it was kind of a nice change of pace in a way. But I want to show this real quick because I pulled Estelle out of a recruit. First new operator from recruits I've had in quite a while. We did get some nice recruits in this vid, but as far as Estelle goes, I do like her overall art. Her art is very, very nice, so I'm curious what the E2 looks like. I probably will E2 her kind of soon because I do like the way she looks, and I've been trying to work on 4 stars a lot more. But as you can see, got my second ever top operator tag and a debuff to pair it with as well, which is absolutely beautiful. So for those of you who know this combination, I get none other than Ifrit, because Ifrit is insane. When there is an Ifrit lane, she basically is top tier. She's good in other cases as well when you don't have great options for her, but the resistance down debuff is the best part when it comes to overall mapping, and I didn't quite have the chips that I needed, so I went for 1 caster chip. Of course got a sniper, and then another one, and another one, but I finally, on the 4th attempt, got the last caster chip that I needed to take her to E1, and unfortunately I don't have the LMD to take her to E2, but she is viable at E1 already, so just taking her to a quick skill 7, I had a couple things that I needed to get, went ahead and made them in the workshop, got her to skill 7, and we're going to take her to E1 55, and that's where she's currently sitting and will be sitting for quite a while, probably, just because I need a lot of LMD. But for the first near light run I'm going to show you, this is actually the boss stage in L10. So I was a bit worried at first because a lot of people were talking about this boss being a really rough one. So Blood Knight, yeah, he can be a bit of a pain for sure in some of the EX stages, but I think for this one he's not so bad. Though I will say, funny enough, when I did finish this one, every time I've done an auto battle after that, an auto deploy, it failed. And ironically, while I'm doing the commentary for this video, I happen to see why. So for some reason, whenever it came to this first run, whenever he goes down from his second phase, he goes in to attack somebody, he's going to do a lot of damage right away. But for some reason, when he did it this time, he attacks Mudrock instead of Beagle. But in the auto deploy, every single time he attacks Beagle first, takes her out, and then uses the ability on Mudrock, and then just walks through my line. But now that I'm seeing it, when he attacks Mudrock first after coming out of his invincibility stage, that is the reason I was able to beat it on this one. So a bit weird, but I kind of see it now. I did redo the stage a little bit later on so that it should be a 100% guarantee now. It was a lot easier taking them out, though this was the first attempt, so I can't say that it was hard in the first time. It's just weird timings can really change the outcome of a fight, and that's the great thing about Arknights. Nothing is ever the same. You make one slight change and it could be the difference between a win and a loss. But of course the archers are a pain, and I have Eva tanking for a second there just so I can make sure that Mudrock doesn't take too much, and I'll swap them through. And once again, Cantabile doing absolute work with the fact that you use the S2, and with Bagpipe it's basically instant, so whenever they actually come in to try to attack her, I can take a couple of shots, she won't go down, and then I activate the ability and she's no longer targeted because of the camouflage. But with the boss done, we are now able to do the EX stages, which I'm not going to do yet. I'm going to go back to chapter 9, but we did get M1 on Cutter, and I worked on M2 of the skill 1, so we're gonna get that one to 3. I don't think I get it in this video. I was missing a few skill books and I decided to wait a moment on that, but that is coming up very soon. And of course, going back into chapter 9, this is 9-7, and this is a kind of a fun map. I do like ones like this, especially when you have Gavialter, because I can just throw in the S2, everything gets pulled straight in. She takes out those 4 squares by herself, and anything that walks in the way in the meantime is going to get absolutely decimated. But I throw Ifrit on the bottom lane. This is my first chance to actually get a full use out of her, other than just having her bait for a second in the last stage that I did. But this one is fairly straightforward. Just throw a little bit of block there, make sure that you have a dual blocker for both of the blue gates, and everything else is going to take it out. Now I should have used Gavialter here, but I was thinking that they didn't have to be quite adjacent to the pillar to knock it down. I was thinking that Blue Poison would knock it down on top of Gavialter, and that's why I removed her. But now I have since learned that you have to be directly next to it for it to knock it down. So a bit of a hindsight problem there, but at least we know now. And with them all stacking up there, I was a little bit worried that I may go down, but I knew Swire there throwing Gavialter down would be enough to hold it. Then I can drop it on the big shield guys just to take them out a little bit faster, and then finish it off with a nice S2 from Gavialter. And that is 9-7 done. So going into 9-9, 9-8 was a training map, I believe, or maybe I just ended up skipping it. I don't exactly remember. But either way, 9-8 was done, and going into 9-9, we're starting to run into Gargoyles. Now, Gargoyles are a pain. I absolutely despise these, but as you can see, I'm getting a little bit of Firewatch action here because I wanted a little bit of extra damage against the aerial version of the Gargoyles. And as you can see, Firewatch isn't exactly being able to attack it right now because it's out of range, but she does a good amount of damage against these heavier armored guys, the medium armor guys. So she's a good use. She has a lot of good options, and I use the skill 1 even though I don't have it to any of the masteries because I haven't E2'd her yet. But over time I will. Of course, I've said before that I'm trying to work up as many 4 stars first as I can, so I'm putting a little bit of a hold on the 6 stars and the 5 stars for a little while, unless I get a lot of LMD, and then potentially I'm going to upgrade Mastima to E2 because you know she deserves it. But Firewatch is a great option for a lot of these, especially when it comes to the arrow units, and as you can see, I'm still not using Thorns for these. I decided to use them a little bit later because some of these Gargoyle maps are really annoying, and you can have 3 different operators. Like I'd had Blue Poison, Cruise, and in this situation Platinum, but sometimes it's a slower, like putting the Chaincaster with a little bit of slow is nice for the Gargoyles, but even with all 3 of them attacking, they did less damage to the Gargoyles than Thorns did, so he replaces 3 units for that situation, which is insane to think about. But if it wasn't for that, I would have lost probably a lot more stages and had to been a little more careful with the pillar drops, because you can use the pillars to take them out if you need. And I think for the most part in the second part of this, I probably did do that just to get rid of some of these. But Gavialtar is a great way of blowing up the first part of the mode and doing a lot of damage to the second part before it gets out in the flying range, so that the rest of them can clean up a little bit easier. But as you can see, the last 2 are going down right now. One of them is floating by, and I end up stalling it enough that the 2 of them can both get hit by the same pillar, and once those are gone, I have nothing else to worry about, as the other units will be finished off by my blockers. But I forgot to record 9/11 apparently, so we're going into 9/12 straight off this, and this is probably where I start using Thorns. I can't exactly remember. I know I used him on the stream just to deal with some of the Gargoyles, but yeah, here is one of the first attempts. So what I did was I knocked the top pillar to the left to keep them from going straight to the blue gate, and then I used Cantabile to knock the other one over to the left to block out the mid path, because I want them all coming one direction. It makes it a little bit easier for me to deal with. And with Myrtle generating some DP for me there, I throw Thorns and Blue Poison next to each other, because that red gate is the one the Gargoyles start to come out of. And then I throw Mustima there just in case one of them is getting a little bit of distance, so I can make sure that they go out in time. I do obviously have some pillars I can use if anything does go bad or looks like it's going to go bad, so I don't have to worry too much in that situation. But I'd rather not use them if I don't have to. Now with Thorn's second activation, you're going to see the Gargoyles coming out and getting absolutely decimated here. He takes out the first phase really fast, and then not long after, the second form, the flying form, goes out really quick, because what they do once they start flying is they automatically beeline straight for the blue gate, which means they're going to be the ones getting there the quickest, so Thorns will automatically target them over anything else, which is going to be the best option, obviously, because that's what I needed. Now the other 2 I can just take out with this pillar real quick, so I throw Bagpipe there to take them out, and that is 9/12 done. So we're moving on to one of the other upgrades that I was excited to show off, and that's Meteor, because I love having a defense down unit on my team. She's not going to do the most single target damage, but having the defense down is going to make my team that much stronger and everybody hit that much harder. So I'm going to be able to use her in a lot of situations where I can use debuffs for bosses. Maybe some really tanky units are going to be a little bit easier to handle if I don't have great caster options there. But I head on over to the archives to unlock a silent skin that I didn't have, and also another new unit, because there are some, I think there might be 1 or 2 that I still haven't unlocked from the archives that I will get to eventually. I'm trying not to use a lot of my red certs for this, but you know, there are some good options, and Mint is such a cute character, I decided I might as well go for her, though I don't know when I'll actually use her. She does seem pretty cool though. So we got her private letter, and also I found out from someone in the Discord, I don't remember exactly who it was, it might have been Tano that was telling me about it, but you can go into the medals, and when you have a certain amount of recruitments, you can actually get a 5-star recruitment card for either Indra or Vulcan, and I chose Indra because Indra seems a little bit harder to get. I know Vulcan is in the recruitment as well, and a little bit easier, I think, when it comes to the tags to get. I probably had some times where I could have gotten Vulcan and I just didn't realize that the 2 tags work together, but you can get a guaranteed 5-star if you get those 2. So we'll try to get Vulcan that way, but I do like the way that Indra works. I haven't used a lot of these 1v1 style characters, but she seems really nice for that. She can do some really good damage with her talent if it procs. I'm sure at A2 it probably has an increase to either the damage or the dodge chance. Plus, turning on the skill 2 all the damage into arts damage is a really nice way to deal with some heavy defenders whenever they come through if she is holding a lane. So it is a good option, and I'd like to try to use her soon, though she is a 5-star, so of course costly. So we'll have to see. Moose is one that I would like to level up for the arts damage as well. Would be a really nice way of holding a lane that may have some really heavy units on it. But this is a showcase of my first time using Meteor. And like I said, she doesn't do a whole lot of single target damage. It is the debuff that really matters here. But as you can see, the flamethrower guys are starting to walk through, and I know life is going to get a little bit harder because with the introduction of the flamethrowers only means that I'm going to have to start dealing with evocators a little bit after. So, of course, Mudrock is a great option for both the flamethrower guys and for the evocators, because while they do take her shields down fairly quickly, she is very tanky, so she can survive it for quite some time. But also, Gavialter is one of the greatest options for these guys because of her S2 being basically a mini stun on that pull. They can no longer activate their ability as soon as she does, so she basically can take anything out when it comes to being able to pull something extremely easy by herself. But there's nothing more entertaining than watching basically her S3 go off in 4 times speed while I'm doing these editings. Is so much fun to watch. Gavialter is just such a blessing. I'm so glad that I got in during the 3rd anniversary, being my first big event. It just made everything so much better. This stage is interesting. This is one of the special stages, and there's a pillar at the top, so you can decide whether or not you want to go on the range side, where you can't deploy blockers, or you want to go to the right side where it's all blockers and no range units. It's a bit of a nice little decision making, because if you have one that is a lot worse than the other, then you're going to have an easier time dealing with that. But also the fact that you have to be careful with the flying units. I don't know if they automatically go past where it blocks. I don't know if they can fly over the pillars, but if they can't and you go to the right side, you may have a really hard time taking them out unless you have a really good Lord. So be careful with how you do it, but if you do choose it, I recommend the left side just because it seems a lot easier, and you can put a couple of blockers there just to do some damage. If you have a really good tanky defender, nothing really is going to get past, so I think even without blockers there, you should be able to do it just fine with a bunch of range units. Just make sure that you have good damage for these heavy units. Some good casters out there. AoE casters would be fantastic, but also the flamethrower guys, of course, do a lot of damage. So if you don't have good ways of stopping them early on, they will shred your range units very quickly. So be careful there. But I think Honeyberry actually relieves the burn element, so you can make it a little bit easier on yourself if you have someone like that. And Thorns, welcome back to the lineup. We're doing 914. And this one was fun as well. I do like the way it was set up to where I can block with Bondinko in the middle this whole front side of the gate with this pillar. So once I destroy the pillar, the place that it was sitting on will be undeployable, but also will be able to be walked through. So the other side is clear now. I know they're all going to walk all the way around, so I can plan accordingly with that and just throw all of my blockers on the outside and make sure I have good range units to deal with the gargoyles, because they are the biggest problem and the ones that are going to be the nightmare for your squad. Everything else is not so hard to deal with. I can deal with the flamethrower guys. Luckily, there were no evocators on this map, because if there were, this would have been a lot harder and probably taken a little bit more time than it did on this one. But with Thorns, of course, the gargoyles are no pain whatsoever. Bondinko is a great option as well when it comes to this map, because she's sitting in the middle, so she can react to either side. If one of them is getting close to getting through, she can just throw the slow down as an emergency, and it will buy you enough time normally to get it done. But we're moving on to the end of this. Obviously, either side is just fine. I let Saria go just so I can have Gavial do the last of this, and this stage is completed. I am very curious about what the challenge mode stages look like, but since I am only in chapter 6 of the challenge mode stages, I'm gonna have to do a lot of working up before I get there. There's a lot of OP to be gained, and hopefully I don't lose too many of these challenge mode stages. I want to try to save as much sanity and OP as I can. But I'm figuring that if I use a little OP here and there to clear some stages, I know it's a bit frowned upon and a bit sad to use them like that, but that could be the best option for me right now in kind of figuring out just how many pulls I can get before Text Alter comes out. Obviously, I'll try to save as many as I can, and if there are some new nice skins, I'm going to be picking them up as well, so I have to be careful with my OP in the future here. But the Evocators are finally arriving, and I should have figured that they'd come out from the bottom, but at first I didn't realize, and also not knocking the pillar down that is directly diagonal to Gavialtar is a bit of a bad idea, because the Evocator will shoot the fireball straight through Myrtle, so everything is going to take a lot of damage there. So I have to be very careful, but I could have done that since Mudrock is blocking the top lane, just swapping the pillars down to where I don't have to worry about the top anyway. Would have been a lot easier, but I throw Bagpipe down just to do a little bit of damage, and obviously I'm taking a lot, so I throw another healer down to try to alleviate some of this pain. But as you can see, they wiped out BP and Myrtle, which Myrtle doesn't necessarily matter for that. I have plenty of DP, but of course BP going down is a sad time. But I throw Saria in just to tank a little bit from the casters there and get that one done. Now this one was another one that's annoying because of the Evocators, but I had a lot of options for this as well. I wanted to put Thorns facing down so that he could attack this one right below as well, but I decided not to because I'm going to go and put him in the middle here to just kind of take out this whole lane. Though it threw me in a bit of a conundrum with how Gavialtar is placed, because I needed her to alleviate the lane, but in doing so, Thorns is not going to be able to gain charge very quickly unless they start coming out of this top red gate. So it puts me in an awkward spot, but also the Evocators are starting to come out, so I'm going to have to start getting some damage somewhere. So I decide I might as well just throw down my Rangers first, and then try to put someone down there like Mudrock to deal with that bottom lane, so he doesn't just cause havoc a little bit later on. I throw my healer out, and then I finally decide to put Thorns out, and as you can see, as I said before, he's not really able to do anything here, so I have to try to keep the top two blockers alive. I need Thorns and Gavialtar both alive, and just bide my time until Thorns can kind of get activated. But as you can see, Blue Poison does a lot of damage. I do have her on Mastery 3, so she hits quite hard at this point, and she can take most of the Evocator out by herself very quickly. So Thorns didn't really do much this map, and that's weird to say because Thorns is a powerhouse in general, but with Saria down, I knew that if Perfumer went down as she did there, I should be alright. With the healing I have, Saria should be able to hold the lane long enough that I can get everything else out. So I decided to put Swire out here. Didn't realize the fireball would hit from the way it pops there. So, of course, I sacrifice Swire, which is unfortunate, something I never want to do. But I throw Blue Poison and Meteor down, and they take quick care of the Evocator. But we're moving on to the last two stages of the video, and like I said, I'm going to try to get the next one out the next day as soon as possible. I do have to work, I do have to do some other things, so hopefully I can get it out pretty quickly, but it will have the boss stage of Chapter 9, and then the EX stages from Near Light, the challenge modes, are going to be on there as well, and probably maybe the challenge mode for EX8. I don't know if I'll be able to complete that one by tomorrow. I might have to theory craft a little more. I do have EX8 done in general, just haven't tried the challenge mode at all yet to see what it's like. I'm sure it's going to be a nightmare. Everyone in the Discord is telling me it is a nightmare, so we'll see what I can possibly do. And of course the NLS stages are going to come after that, so I'll try to get those done as well. They shouldn't be as hard as the challenge mode stages. But for this map, it's pretty straightforward. I just throw two snipers and a good chain caster. It doesn't have to be a chain caster, it could be just anyone with slow, honestly, in putting there, just to get that mid lane and the bottom lane done. And the top lane is going to be run by Thorns and Swire with two healers, because as it turns out, when it comes to the shield guy and the sword guy you can't attack until he's being blocked. But the defender, when he's alive around the sword guy, gives him a lot of increased attack speed, maybe attack damage as well, so he is a nightmare to deal with if you're not prepared for that. So Thorns is a good way to try to take out the defender as fast as possible, so I don't have to deal with that. And this stage was kind of fun. I did mess it up the first time just because I didn't get my proper timings with the pillars. But as you can see, you can move them down the way you knock them down to funnel them all down the same way. So Thorns is going to run over this lane, and of course I have Blue Poison, Meteor, and Pudding as well for it, so it's basically a death funnel that they're all going to be walking into, though there are a lot of enemies coming through, and some of them are the attack and defense guys that I mentioned at the end of the last stage, as you can see them right there. So you have to be extremely careful with this, and Mudrock, if she builds up enough shields, can tank long enough if you don't get the shield guy out in time. But what I did was I dropped Cantabile on the sword guy, so the defender walked by first, and I no longer had to deal with the attack speed and the attack damage gain that comes with them being right next to each other. Made it a little bit easier, but I think by the time they get to any of my defenders anyway, they would have been basically gone. So with Mudrock there and with their shields built up, had no problem taking out the rest of these, and that is going to be this stage done, because everything else that comes out after is just the same thing over and over again. Yeah, she does go down, but S2, Gavialter, and Thorns just make light work of all these. So with that being done, the next stage will be the boss stage, which is going to be in the next video. And that's all I've got for this one. I hope you enjoy, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.